Hi everyone, I'm Echoes, I'm a VTuber, and I'll be going over episode 2 of Hat Atelier. So overall, it's nice that we get a 2-episode premiere, as normally we only get one, but since it looks like Crunchyroll is trying to heavily promote Witch Hat, they're doing a 2-episode premiere, and then it should be 1 episode afterwards, for a total of at least 13. I believe from previous rumors, there's going to be 2 cores, but they're going to be split cores. So I think there's going to be a total of at least 26 at some point, but for now I think we only confirm with 13 episodes, if I remember correctly. But yeah, we'll go over episode 2. So we continue where we left off, right? Picture book opening, and you can see that Qifrey called Pegasus carriage for her to bring her to his atelier, which is the place that that she'll be learning how to be a witch at. We skipped I'll skip the intro in a second, but essentially the opening foreshadows what will happen throughout the series. Like they introduce like a whole bunch of parts, like introduce Qifrey's mystery, the other students at the atelier, the underwater area, where a lot of witches congregate, magic of being an apprentice, some future locations. There's a whole huge emphasis on like frames and like photographs or framing, because it's one of the strongest parts of the manga is how the mangaka frames her scenes to be a little more than just basic what do you call it, basic arrangements essentially. But yeah, it's really beautiful though. It like has this magical feeling, and also shows Shirahama Sensei's very great skill at hatching, which is like essentially the detailed line work she does. Not just like the outline, but more like lines to accent clothing and all sorts of stuff. That's one of her signature styles. But yeah, and then you can see that continue on. Qifrey mentions how he planted guard briar seeds around the house to prevent anyone from going in, to act as a barrier to prevent people from getting too close. And I believe this scene, I think is new. This part, I don't remember the scene. Essentially, she's barefoot and she doesn't have any clothes, so not clothes. She doesn't have shoes, so she's walking barefoot here. It's like, I promised my mom I wouldn't leave her by herself, because this kind of continues where the other previous scene where her mom's like, oh, I thought you'd go with that witch, and this continues on as a new scene. Kind of helps connect it, which is pretty good. My mom, I wouldn't leave her by herself. Don't be so hard on yourself, you didn't know what you're doing. And then we get introduced to Atelier, which has really beautiful backgrounds. And then you can say, oh, let's watch your face. And then he gives her the water. It's like, it's too round and full to be called water. And then, oh, it's like, totally forgot, you need to change of clothes. So he grabs her clothes. She's like, how do I use this? I'm scared of touching magic I don't understand. There's nothing to be afraid of. And then you can see she meets one of the students here, or apprentices. It's like, oh, hey, not a difficult magic handle. You want me to teach you? And then I think she introduced herself as Tetia. And that's like a vapor bubble where you could pour water into your hands when you tilt the lower tray. So now we, in this episode, we learn a lot more about the mechanics of magic. And thank you for thanking me. And then we meet the other girl right here. This girl is Richeh, the blue-haired one. She'll sell eventually if you just don't respond. Fair enough. But yeah. You see that she's a bit more aloof compared to Tetia's energetic nature. Then you can see that she has the tools there. Apprentices were students of Master Qifrey. Oh man, I was supposed to call him Qifrey, but I think it's Qifrey technically. But yeah, either way it's fine. It's fine. Are you the same age? What atelier did you come from? And she said, oh, I don't consider myself a student. I literally only cast a spell for the first time yesterday. And then we get this really cool scene here. I'm gonna live here from now on. So it's like, wait, you're the one who did it? I really love I don't remember if this was in the manga, but this was a really cool presentation of this scene. It's like, there's a rumor going around about an outsider used forbidden magic. then they were allowed to become an apprentice with their memories intact. And then we get this really cool imagery here, which alludes to something in the future, but regardless, very cool imagery. Feels very sinister and dark. It's like, oh, are you okay? Looks like y'all introduce yourselves, and he got her some clothes. And then here he introduces the story of magic. Where long ago that magic wasn't something special. All you need was a combination of known patterns and specially made ink. And really love this like storybook telling here that's used here. It's a familiar tool that anyone could use. But because of it, it sparked conflict time and time again. So a few people who still had a conscience turned away from conflict and united as witches, trusting secret only to their disciples. And essentially, they changed back to something that only a chosen few can wield. Because as otherwise the world will collapse into lawlessness again. Everyone's being careful to keep this secret. It's like, in what's forbidden magic, which is essentially what the crystal magic she used before was forbidden magic. So for magic, forbidden magic was banned when the day of the pact came. Teaching me magic I'm not supposed to use. So I usually tell my students not to rush things, but that's harder with you. So he explains it when he walks down here. Really nice where we get a bit of a change in scene. When you simply boil it down. So what's forbidden essentially is any spell cast directly upon the human body. This includes transformation, age, alteration, so it's manipulation of thoughts or emotions. However, there's a single exception, which is erasing memories. Most spells are cast on tools, like carriages or lamps. And you can see that he's using this item right here, which is essentially a gate sort of spell. But we're like, they're surrounded by hills just a moment ago. It's called a wonderway or gateway or something like that. We're surrounded by hills just a moment ago. Connects two round windows that bear the same pattern. Okay. So, and then he shows her this like library to preserve knowledge. All books related to magic are stored there, and where most like the picture book is there. It's like, right, let's go there, won't sleep. But essentially he says that they can't go there just yet because they in order to do it, so they have passed something called the librarian's trial, which essentially the Tower of Tomes, which is that building / library, is protected by 4 librarians, and only by passing the trial can they enter. So you need to study if you want to go inside. Maybe happy earlier when you express how eager you were to learn, but it's natural to be scared. And the magic they'll learn that are not forbidden bring happiness to everybody. That's how it feels. You can see that here it's it's gone a bit dark. It's like, who's Agott? And he introduces her as her roommate. She's not there yet. And he said, I gotta take care of a few things, so just let me know if you need anything. You can see here he moves away for a bit. It's like, you can see he's sending messages through, I guess, this like circular object here. Probably a magic tool. So no, and then you can see he's reporting, like, thank you for allowing me to take in Coco as my apprentice. No, nothing about the picture book. I don't remember if that scene was in the manga or not, or was inserted. I don't remember. But regardless, it makes him feel a bit more mysterious about how, obviously he's a nice guy, but it's, there's, rules that he has to follow too. And then you can see that she was about to touch one of the pens, but then Agott comes in. They move aside so I can land. You can see she's using that flying rune here that Qifrey used in the first episode. It's like, oh, you're Agott, I'm Coco. And she already knows that. Thank you. Once you're done, she'll never return to being human. So you can see that this girl is going to be kind of like a rival character. She becomes nicer later on, but for now, we had to deal with the rivalry. And you can see like, oh, I've worked really hard. I've kept drawing until our fingertips are turned black. Only then we're allowed to become apprentices. The way an outsider such as yourself can be called a witch, can become a witch. She's like, I don't know until I try. You can see that they're called for a meal. See, they had the same food as before. It's like, oh, so last minute. Oh yeah, this is where Tetia say, oh, we're supposed to have like a party to welcome Coco. But yeah, since he couldn't prepare anything due to it being the welcome party, yeah. Couldn't prepare it because of last minute, so they'll just eat that, prepare for that later, and then just have their usual meal. But yeah, the food scenes are really good. The bread like has this really nice like pulling scene with the bread. It's like really it looks really good. And they have their usual stew. You see that Coco is like kind of just tired from the day, and she's sad about her mom. And then she's like, and then next day you can see that she's trying to learn how to practice, study. I need to take tests in order to become an apprentice, but doesn't go to detail what you need to do. There are a lot of things books don't tell you when it comes to magic, and see that she finally gets her tools. You'll be a bit scared of touching this, but she needs to do it in order to save her mom. And then you can see that you get a bit of time lapse, and then she takes a lot of notes. So then we go over some of the basic fundamentals. So a spell is composed of 3 elements: sigil at the center, surrounded by lines that are called signs around it. And then they also have the circle. Outer circle is called the ring. And there's different types of sigils, which tend to be elemental, fire, wind, water, etc. Signs determine what form the magic takes. Lastly, when the outer ring is completed, the spell is done. And then you can see that she's just barely keeping up, but she's doing pretty well. And then she's trying to practice spells, like don't look at it, and like you're just learning. You can see here, your ring is not connected. Spell won't complete until it's activate until it's a complete circle. Get used to it, and you'll be running freely in no time. Once he completes it, you can see Agott gets blasted with water. Like, oh, I'm not bothered at all. We may see the seal she drew. She mentions how because one of the what I call I guess the signs longer than the others, it amplified pressure in that direction, caused water to gush out. That's always your average observation on point. And then you can see that he says that he's going to be visiting the Great Hall. The Great Hall, I believe, is that underwater area that's mentioned before, where a lot of witches congregate, if I can remember correctly. So it's a very important meeting place for witches. So yeah, it's like, oh, please look after her. It's like, I will. Really sorry about that, and you don't have to keep apologizing. And you can see that now she's going back to her point she made before. It's like, you need to take a test to become a true witch. Improve yourself in no lessons. So essentially, she wants her to start her lesson, which we'll go over in the next episode. And then we get the really beautiful ending, which is kind of like, this is kind of like peaceful, but kind of like ominous feel. But still beautiful though. So yeah, this is essentially the next episode alludes to where the test is. So it's called the data range test. It's essentially where witches have to take this test in order to become apprentices. But essentially it's a trial that Coco has to do, and that will be covered in more detail next episode, which will be on Monday. So pretty close actually in timing. But yeah, but overall it's very good. This episode, like I feel like there's a few parts that are obviously new. I think most of it's covered in, I believe, chapters 2 and 3 of the manga. But there's this beautiful sense of like extra detail which is added, which makes the series feel a little more alive than before. And certain explanations are portrayed in a very smooth and easy way to understand, which I appreciate a lot. But yeah, overall looking forward to continuing, because this series will continue to stay good and stuff. So I'm looking forward to it. It just will take a bit of time, but we'll eventually get there. But yeah, thanks for listening to me. If you found that kind of interesting, I feel like overall it's nice we get introduced to the apprentices. Coco's trying to get her bearings. We get explanation of magic. So like all the pieces starting to slowly come into place. We also get the slight introduction to the brim hats, at least a little bit. But yeah, but regardless, yeah. Anyway, don't want to go into that too further for the sake of spoilers, but yeah. Anyway, thanks for watching, and looking forward to reacting to episode 3.